Intimacy is often misunderstood as mere passion or fleeting emotion, but true mastery of intimacy comes from deeper self-mastery rooted in ancient wisdom. Today, we uncover 5 secret Stoic positions, philosophical stances that unlock profound connection and authentic closeness in your relationships. The first secret Stoic position in mastering intimacy revolves around the concept of emotional resilience and focusing on what is within your control. This principle is fundamental to Stoic philosophy, which teaches that much of our suffering comes not from external events themselves, but from how we respond to them. When it comes to intimacy, this means understanding that you cannot control your partner's feelings, reactions, or choices. Instead, the power lies in mastering your own emotional responses and maintaining inner calm regardless of external circumstances. In practice, emotional resilience means developing the ability to observe your emotions without being overwhelmed or ruled by them. When you face moments of jealousy, frustration, or fear within your relationship, a Stoic approach encourages you to pause and reflect rather than react impulsively. By recognizing these feelings as natural but transient, you prevent them from dictating your behavior in ways that could damage your connection. This creates a space where you can engage with your partner from a place of strength and clarity, rather than neediness or defensiveness. Moreover, by focusing on your own emotional state, you become a pillar of stability for your relationship. People naturally gravitate toward those who can remain steady in the face of uncertainty or conflict. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine. Rather, it's about cultivating a calm center that allows you to respond thoughtfully. This emotional steadiness reassures your partner and fosters trust because they feel safe knowing you won't be swept away by every emotional storm. Another important aspect of this position is learning to separate facts from interpretations. For example, if your partner is distant or upset, a non-Stoic mind might immediately jump to conclusions, perhaps assuming rejection or loss of interest. A Stoic mind, however, reminds you to accept what is actually happening without adding stories or assumptions. You focus on your own actions and mindset. How can you be patient, supportive, and understanding? This clarity reduces unnecessary conflict and emotional turbulence. Finally, by embracing this position, you also model emotional intelligence and self-mastery, which can inspire your partner to develop these qualities as well. Emotional resilience becomes a shared foundation in your relationship, strengthening intimacy not through control or manipulation, but through mutual respect and grounded presence. This secret Stoic position teaches that true intimacy flourishes when both individuals commit to managing their own inner world with wisdom and composure. The second secret Stoic position in mastering intimacy is centered on the power of presence over passion. In modern relationships, we are often taught to chase intensity, to seek out thrilling emotional highs or constant stimulation. But Stoic wisdom offers a very different, deeper perspective. The Stoics valued attention and awareness far more than fleeting passion, because they understood that true connection is not built in emotional chaos, but in the calm and consistent presence between two people. In the realm of intimacy, being fully present with your partner, mentally, emotionally, and physically, is more powerful than any romantic gesture or momentary surge of desire. Being present means giving your undivided attention not just when things are good, but also in the quiet, mundane, or even uncomfortable moments, when you sit with your partner and truly listen, without thinking about what you'll say next, without checking your phone, without rushing the moment. You're offering one of the most valuable forms of intimacy, your full awareness. Presence tells your partner, I see you, I hear you, I am with you right now. And in a world full of distractions and superficial interactions, that kind of attention is rare and deeply meaningful. The Stoics emphasized mindfulness before it had a name. They spoke of engaging with the moment fully, not being dragged into the past by regrets or into the future by anxiety. In a relationship, this mindfulness translates to a kind of emotional stillness. You're not reacting from wounds or expectations, but interacting from the here and now, and that allows you to respond to your partner's needs, moods, and emotions with clarity rather than confusion. Presence also means restraint. Not every moment calls for action, advice, or solving a problem. Sometimes the most intimate thing you can do is simply hold space for your partner to express themselves, to feel, to think out loud, without fear of judgment or interruption. This kind of emotional containment creates trust, and trust is the true soil in which intimacy grows. It also helps you to remain unaffected by temporary moods or emotional spikes. Instead of being dragged into every storm, you become the still center, the calm eye of the hurricane. Passion, as the Stoics knew, can be unpredictable and short-lived, but presence is sustainable. It is a skill that can be practiced, deepened, and refined. It is through consistent presence that real intimacy matures. Eye contact that holds without pressure. Silence that comforts rather than distances. Touch that reassures rather than demands. When you bring presence into your intimate life, every interaction becomes more meaningful, no matter how simple or ordinary. Ultimately, presence reinforces the idea that intimacy is not something you take, but something you offer, and that offering is most powerful when it comes not from desire alone, but from attention, patience, and grounded awareness. The Stoic does not chase intensity. They embody stillness, and in doing so, they invite their partner into a deeper, more enduring connection. The third secret Stoic position in mastering intimacy is the understanding that vulnerability is not weakness. It is strength. This idea might seem to contradict the popular image of the Stoic as emotionally detached or closed off, but true Stoicism is not about avoiding emotion. It's about being in control of it. And one of the most courageous things a person can do is to reveal their true self without fear. In the context of intimacy, vulnerability becomes a powerful tool, not for manipulation, but for building deep, authentic connection. It requires strength to show your fears, your flaws, your doubts, and your insecurities to another person, especially in a world that often teaches men to hide those parts of themselves. Vulnerability means being open, honest, and emotionally transparent, even when it's uncomfortable. It means expressing your needs without shame, owning your mistakes without defensiveness, and allowing your partner to see you in your raw, unfiltered form. The Stoic understands that life is uncertain, people are unpredictable, and nothing external can be guaranteed. So instead of trying to armor themselves against disappointment, the wise Stoic leans into the discomfort of uncertainty with dignity and self-respect. They understand that real intimacy is only possible when two people are willing to show up as they truly are, not as perfect illusions, but as evolving human beings. In many relationships, people wear masks. They hide parts of themselves to gain approval, to avoid judgment, or to maintain control. But those masks create distance. They prevent real closeness. A Stoic man does not fear losing face or being exposed. Instead, he trusts that if he lives in alignment with virtue and integrity, then whatever connection is formed on the basis of his truth will be far more enduring than anything built on performance or pretense. Vulnerability, then, becomes not a liability but a filter. It reveals who is truly meant to be in your life and who only connects with the surface version of you. being vulnerable also means creating space for your partner to do the same. When you share your inner world with calm honesty, you invite them to lower their own defenses. You're not just offering information, you're offering emotional safety, and emotional safety is what allows intimacy to deepen beyond the physical or superficial. A Stoic relationship is one where both people feel safe to express joy, pain, desire, uncertainty, and hope, because neither is trying to dominate, control, or fix the other. Instead, there's mutual acceptance. This doesn't mean tolerating disrespect or dysfunction. It means being strong enough to embrace someone's humanity, while also holding firm boundaries rooted in self-respect. Moreover, vulnerability allows for true communication, not just exchanging words, but revealing the layers beneath them. It's the difference between saying, "I'm fine," and saying, "I'm feeling overwhelmed and unsure, but I'm trying to work through it." That level of honesty builds intimacy like nothing else. It removes the guessing game, the hidden agendas, and the emotional walls that so often sabotage closeness. The Stoic approach teaches you to speak with clarity, to share without demanding, and to reveal without collapsing. That is strength. That is emotional maturity. When you make vulnerability a consistent practice, it changes the tone of your entire relationship. Arguments become less about ego and more about understanding. Affection becomes less performative and more heartfelt. Time together becomes a space for growth, not just escape. And while vulnerability will always carry some risk, the Stoic embraces that risk as part of the human experience, because they know that the alternative, emotional isolation, is a far greater cost. In choosing to be open, the Stoic man does not make himself weaker, he makes the relationship stronger. Fourth secret Stoic position in mastering intimacy is the practice of mutual respect through indifference to outcomes. At first, this might sound cold or detached, but in reality, it is one of the most liberating and empowering ideas a person can bring into a relationship. The Stoics spoke of apatheia, a state of calm and rational detachment, not from life itself, but from the illusion that we can, or should, control things outside of ourselves. In intimacy, this translates into respecting the autonomy of your partner by letting go of the need to manipulate, to force, or to anxiously cling to a specific outcome. It's the practice of loving fully while still accepting that you cannot possess or predict another person. So much of the tension and dysfunction in relationships arises from expectations that are rooted in fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. People begin to treat their partners not as individuals with free will, but as emotional anchors or sources of validation. This leads to control, jealousy, emotional games, and eventually disconnection. The Stoic understands that while love and intimacy are beautiful and powerful, they cannot thrive under the pressure of ownership. True respect means allowing your partner to be who they are, not who you want them to be. Indifference to outcomes does not mean indifference to the person. It means recognizing that you can give your best, show up with love, loyalty, and presence. And still, the other person might choose a different path, and that has nothing to do with your worth. A Stoic lover releases the need to grasp, to obsess, or to demand a particular result, and instead focuses entirely on what is within their control, how they love, how they show up, how they carry themselves. That's where their power lies. This mindset fosters a profound level of mutual respect. When you are not trying to control your partner's emotions, decisions, or desires, you allow them the space to come toward you willingly, and that voluntary intimacy, born out of freedom and not Force is far more meaningful than anything coerced. It also sets the foundation for open, honest communication. When both partners feel they can be themselves without fear of punishment or emotional withdrawal, the relationship becomes a place of truth rather than performance. Additionally, this Stoic detachment helps you avoid emotional dependence. You no longer hinge your happiness on whether your partner responds exactly the way you want them to. You no longer react from insecurity or ego. Instead, you approach intimacy with strength, grace, and self-respect. If the relationship grows and deepens, you appreciate it with gratitude. If it fades or ends, you grieve it with dignity. But you are not destroyed by it. You remain whole, because you never made your identity or inner peace dependent on another's behavior. When practiced well, this position doesn't create distance. It invites a deeper, more respectful closeness. Your partner senses that you are with them not out of fear, not out of neediness, but out of conscious choice. And that kind of love is powerful. It says, "I want you, but I don't need to control you. I'm here because I choose to be, not because I'm afraid to be alone." That message creates emotional safety. It creates an environment where both people can breathe, grow, and love with clarity rather than confusion. Indifference to outcomes also protects you from being emotionally manipulated. When you are not afraid of walking away from what doesn't serve your peace or integrity, you cannot be held hostage by guilt, threats, or emotional games. You remain steady, not because you are unfeeling, but because you value self, mastery over emotional chaos. This is the heart of Stoic intimacy, love that is given freely without strings, without fear, and without the need for possession. It is the love of a person who has already found peace within themselves, and thus does not seek it through another. The fifth secret Stoic position in mastering intimacy is the cultivation of shared purpose and virtue. In the philosophy of Stoicism, a life well lived is one rooted in virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These virtues are not just individual goals. They are guiding principles that can transform relationships into powerful, supportive partnerships. Intimacy becomes far more meaningful when it's not merely about affection or chemistry, but about two people aligned in a deeper mission of growth, self-mastery, and mutual elevation. When partners are united by shared values and purpose, their bond becomes resilient, intentional, and profoundly fulfilling. A Stoic relationship is not merely romantic, it is a partnership in the highest sense. It's two individuals walking side by side on the path of personal excellence, holding each other accountable, inspiring each other, and challenging one another to become the best version of themselves. This shared pursuit creates a deeper connection than fleeting pleasure ever could. It means that your time together is not just about enjoying each other's company, but about supporting each other's journey. You're not just lovers, you're teammates, allies, and witnesses to one another's evolution. This sense of shared purpose gives the relationship structure and meaning. It moves the connection beyond superficial attraction into something enduring. When you both care about building a life of virtue, being honest, acting with integrity, staying disciplined, treating others fairly, you naturally develop a relationship grounded in trust and respect. You hold yourselves and each other to a higher standard, not out of pressure or perfectionism, but because you see love as a place where character is not only revealed, but refined. The Stoic understanding of love is deeply practical. It's not built on fantasies or emotional highs, but on the daily choices you make in how you treat one another. Love, in this view, is action. It's the decision to speak kindly even when you're frustrated. It's the effort to listen attentively when you're tired. It's the courage to give honest feedback, compassion to remain loyal during difficulty, and to maintain your own dignity even when emotions run high. When both people are committed to living with virtue, the relationship becomes a source of strength and inner peace rather than stress and chaos. Furthermore, a shared purpose provides direction during hard times. Every relationship will face challenges, disagreements, external stress, personal struggles. But when you and your partner are anchored in the same principles, you navigate those storms with more grace. You don't fight against each other, you fight for the relationship. Together, you understand that the goal is not to win arguments but to solve problems as a unit. You hold each other's pain with empathy, and you push each other to stay aligned with values even when it's hard. That's the Stoic way, not to avoid difficulty, but to face it with character. Shared purpose also protects against complacency. In many relationships, once the initial excitement fades, stagnation sets in. But when you and your partner are constantly striving for growth, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you keep the relationship alive and evolving. You read, learn, explore, reflect, and expand together. You make time for deeper conversations, set goals as a team, and celebrate each other's personal victories. The bond becomes dynamic, not static, and that movement forward is what keeps the connection strong over time. This Stoic position challenges the idea that love is enough on its own. Love is essential, yes, but without virtue it lacks direction. Without purpose it lacks longevity. Stoicism teaches that a meaningful life, and by extension a meaningful relationship, must be built intentionally. It's not about what you can extract from the relationship, but about what you can contribute to it. When both people come into the relationship with this mindset, intimacy becomes more than emotional closeness. It becomes a shared mission, a sacred space where two people commit not only to each other, but to the pursuit of something greater than themselves. The sixth secret Stoic position in mastering intimacy is the deliberate use of self-restraint to enhance desire and deepen connection. In a world where instant gratification is celebrated and indulgence is often mistaken for love, the Stoics' approach stands in stark contrast. Stoicism teaches that true strength lies not in constant indulgence, but in the ability to choose when to act on desire and when to hold back. This self-restraint is not rooted in repression or avoidance. It is rooted in intentionality. By practicing discipline in intimacy, a Stoic creates space for longing, appreciation, and emotional clarity to flourish, all of which intensify genuine connection. In relationships, physical intimacy can easily become routine or mechanical if it is driven purely by impulse. What begins as passion can lose its potency when it's consumed without mindfulness. The Stoic understands that restraint adds depth and dimension to desire. When you choose not to act immediately on every urge, you signal to yourself and your partner that the relationship is about more than physical need. It's about emotional resonance and spiritual alignment. That pause, that moment of intentional delay, is what transforms a simple act into a meaningful expression. Self-restraint also reinforces your sense of agency. Instead of being ruled by your passions, you become the master of them. This control creates a powerful psychological shift. Your desire is no longer automatic. It becomes sacred. It is not something you give away casually, but something you offer with purpose. This elevates your intimacy into a conscious choice, rather than a habitual reaction, and this consciousness brings presence, appreciation, and emotional depth into the act itself. Every touch becomes more potent because it is backed by intention. In addition, restraint helps preserve emotional polarity. One of the most powerful dynamics in intimate relationships is the balance between closeness and space. Too much closeness too often, without pause or mystery, can create emotional suffocation or reduce attraction, but the Stoic, by practicing restraint, preserves the essential tension that keeps desire alive. They understand that space breeds appreciation. When you don't make yourself overly available at every moment, you become more valued, more intriguing, and more respected. You allow your partner the room to miss you, to want you, and to re-engage with you from a place of true desire rather than obligation. This position of restraint is also closely tied to emotional discipline. There are times in every relationship when emotions run high, when anger, frustration, or sadness threaten to spill over and damage intimacy. The Stoic trains himself to pause, to breathe, to wait before reacting. This self-control prevents the kind of impulsive behaviors, shouting, blaming, withdrawing, that erode trust and emotional safety. It is in these moments of potential conflict where restraint becomes an act of love, holding back a cruel word, resisting the urge to punish, choosing silence over sarcasm. These small, internal victories protect the relationship far more than grand romantic gestures ever could. Moreover, this form of self-restraint encourages deep inner reflection. When you are not constantly acting on every feeling, you are forced to examine it. You ask yourself, where is this desire coming from? Is it rooted in love or in ego? Is this the right time, the right way, the right reason? This inquiry deepens your self-awareness and allows you to engage with your partner from a place of clarity and emotional maturity. It ensures that your actions are aligned with your values, not with fleeting impulses. And finally, the Stoic approach to restraint reinforces the sacredness of intimacy. In a culture that often treats sex and closeness as transactions or entertainment, the Stoic sees them as rituals, moments of connection that deserve reverence. When you approach intimacy with this mindset, you elevate both yourself and your partner. You're not just sharing your body, you're offering your focus, your presence, your energy, and that makes every moment more profound. Restraint, rather than diminishing connection, sharpens it. It is not the absence of desire, but the honoring of it through thoughtful timing, clear intention, and deep self-mastery. In mastering intimacy through the lens of Stoicism, you move beyond shallow expressions of love and step into a realm of conscious connection, mutual respect, and emotional depth. These 5 secret positions are not just techniques. They are disciplines that reshape how you show up in your relationship. When you practice presence, embrace vulnerability, let go of control, cultivate shared purpose, and apply self-restraint, you create an intimacy that is rare, resilient, and deeply fulfilling. The Stoic path is not about suppressing your humanity, it's about elevating it, so that every connection you form is rooted not in need but in strength, not in chaos but in clarity, and not in fear but in fearless love.